Warning, the following video may contain adult language and themes. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. If you have a problem with this, I suggest you stop playing this video now. How are y'all doing? You doing good? Okay, let's dig into this. Hope your days are going good. Yeah, so I just wanted to get on here and video blog about the latest horror movie I saw. I just want to talk about the Nightmare on Elm Street series before I get into this particular entry that I saw. I've always kind of liked the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, probably not as much as the Friday the 13th movies. I like the Friday the 13th movies better. From what I remember, I've seen all the Friday the 13th movies, as I've said before, but don't think I've seen all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. I think I've seen a lot of them, or I started off, I think I've seen like 1, 2, 3, I think I saw 4, and I might have seen 5, but after that, what I barely remember, is they got way too silly. Or something like that. Freddy became way too comical. It was just not interesting anymore, and I just lost interest. But, like I said, I like the first one. The first one is probably one of my favorite horror movies of all time. And if you don't know, it stars Johnny Depp in a very early role of his, where he's really young. It also stars John Saxon, who I believe was in Enter the Dragon. It also stars Heather Langenkamp, who I don't believe did very much after that. Then there was the second one, which a lot of people hate, but I actually like that one. I actually like it. It changed some of Freddy Krueger's lore. Like, I think they had Freddy Krueger, he worked in a power plant, and he wasn't a janitor in this entry or something like that. But I actually like the second one. The second one also gets criticized a lot for subtle homoeroticism in it, and it is kind of noticeable. But I look past it, and it's actually, in my opinion, one of the few Friday the 13th, God, I keep messing it up. Not Friday the 13th. One of the few Nightmare on Elm Streets that, other than the first, that were actually trying to be scary and where Freddy was actually brutal and just savage. Like, in the other ones, he kind of gets silly and kind of creative in his kills, and he's not as scary. But I like the second one. I think it's highly underrated. Then we come to this one, the one I'm reviewing. It's called The Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. Apparently it's rated X on Internet Movie Database. That's weird. I don't know what version I saw, but it didn't seem like it was X-rated. I'll have to go and look for the X-rated version. Wow, it was rated X. Wow. I must have seen the R-rated version, because that one was not that bad. Anyway, so it's rated 6.5 on Internet Movie Database. It's directed by Chuck Russell. And in case you don't know, Wes Craven, I think, is the original creator of the Nightmare on Elm Street, series. That's what he's most famous for, like John Carpenter is with Halloween. And what did I think about this one? I didn't think this one was that bad. I don't think it's better than the second or the first, but it's starting to go downhill. But I didn't think it was that bad. It was okay. And Robert Englund, who is the face of Freddy. This one wasn't that bad. In case you didn't know, this one stars some pretty A-list actors. Like, it stars Patricia Arquette. It stars Laurence Fishburne. It stars Neo. And they also brought back Heather Langenkamp and John Saxon. Obviously, it stars Robert Englund. I think those are all the names worth mentioning, but yeah, you'd be kind of probably interested. People who like Laurence Fishburne would probably be interested in seeing this. If you also want to see Laurence Fishburne in a really weird early role, see Death Wish 2. If you want to see, yeah, Laurence Fishburne, starred in, he was one of the bad guys, which is so weird. He was a really bad guy in that, and also, going on a tangent here, but in Death Wish 1, if you want to see, what's his name? Jeff Goldblum as a bad guy. Like, he was a bad guy in that one too, as one of his early roles. But anyway, let's get on to this review. I'm just getting sidetracked. I thought this was okay. Basically, there's all these kids. Patricia Arquette basically doesn't want to sleep because she's been having these dreams. Obviously Freddy's been haunting her dreams. And so she gets put into this psychiatric ward with all these other kids who are experiencing the same thing. And this doctor who's trying to help them, and Nancy, the girl from the first one. One thing I didn't like about this one was it seemed like they were trying to make up for the second one, because a lot of people thought the second one was a big misstep. It's like hardly connected at all with the first one, and so this one's sort of like trying to bring back the fans of the first one by bringing back Nancy and her father. Nancy comes in as an intern at the hospital, and she knows exactly what these kids are going through. And of course, none of the doctors believe this Freddy exists, and they're all like, "Oh, it's just your internal struggle that you're fighting. These dreams, they're a spin-off of your emotional response. It has nothing to do with this killer who's common to all of your nightmares. The typical idiot fucking adults who don't believe anything these kids say, even though it's all coincidence that they all, are afraid of this exact same person." But yeah, Nancy comes in and she sort of kind of starts this love relationship with one of the doctors there who's also trying to help them. And she's an intern, which is probably inappropriate for her to do that. But anyway, and so she tries to help these kids. And it turns out that I think like Patricia Arquette and Laurence Fishburne, by the way, is one of like the wards. I don't know. I think that's the term at the hospital. And Patricia Arquette, it turns out, has this power where she can pull other people into her dreams. So I think before this point, Freddy would pick people off individually when they were in their dreams. And so now they've introduced this thing where they can pull other people into her dreams, so you can face Freddy with other people. And they also introduce like dream powers. You know how when you have a dream, you can do things that you can't in normal life. So they introduce dream powers, and they use these to fight Freddy. And so kids start dying off. Obviously, there's like a whole bunch of stereotypical kids that are in this group. There's like the emo kid, I would say. There's the token black kid, and he acts like a token black kid. He's like, "Oh no, come on, Freddy, come on, I'll kick your ass, motherfucker." That's what he's like. It's not what he's like, but and like and they've got like the badass girl, and they got all sorts of people. They got a kid in a wheelchair, and so they all start getting killed off, and Nancy believes them, of course, and they mentioned briefly this drug that Nancy has taken to get rid of the night terrors. It's like this sort of experimental drug, and she recommends it for the kids, and the doctor's like, "I ain't doing that, it's experimental, and of course he won't listen. But then the doctor comes, they do a session where the doctor actually comes into the dream with them, and he sees Freddy too, so he's like, "Oh, maybe we better prescribe this." But then like him and Nancy get in trouble, so they get kicked out of the ward, and so they go rogue and trying to help these kids, because then the doctors who are left there are all like, "Oh, we need to sedate all these kids because they're going crazy because they don't want to sleep." And so obviously they are signing their death warrants by doing that. So in the end, I guess I'm not going to spoil more than that, but what I didn't like about this, and the way the Nightmare on Elm Street, God, I get that mixed up, series went, what I didn't like was that this is. I don't like this series as much as the Friday the 13th series, mainly because it's like Dream Warriors. That's the title of it. These kids like band together and fight Freddy with their powers. And it's kind of the same reason I didn't like Friday the 13th New Blood. It's that they're fighting back with weird powers that we don't know what their limits are, and so it's sort of like that. Like they have powers, so they can actually, combat Freddy. So it's kind of weird. Also, I don't. It's hard to explain why I don't like Nightmare on Elm Street series. I think it's because the deaths take place in this dreamland, and so you don't really know what the rules are. When Jason hunts you down, he's doing it in the physical world. So he has to abide by the physical laws of our world. Yes, he's a zombie at certain points, but he still has to. You know what I mean? He can't like fly. He can't make his arms stretch out. He can't like use his tongue to tie some. That's one of the deaths, by the way. Not one of the deaths, but one of the things Freddy does in this. He uses his tongue to he shoots out his tongue and ties people to this bed. And it's just like you don't know what his powers are, and there's no limit to it. So it's like. And plus, a lot of the deaths in the Nightmare on Elm Street movies just seem way too silly. And I think if I review more of these, get farther into the series, it'll become more evident as the series go on how silly it becomes. So it's hard to relate to the deaths. When Jason kills someone, you can relate to it because it's real. It's not some dreamy type weird death like in this movie, Freddy pulls out this guy's veins and walks him along like a puppet. It's like, okay, I guess that would hurt. I mean, I don't know how you could do that. I mean, no, what Jason does, Jason will just cut your head off with a machete, and it's like, oh wow, yeah, that would hurt in real life. But it's like, all the deaths in these movies are just so over the top now, and they've gotten to be so over the top that it's just hard for me to buy it, and I don't know. I guess it's just personal preference, but also the way Freddy has to kill you, he has to go into your dreams. So it really limits what he can do. You know, Jason can go anywhere. He can go into Manhattan. He can attack a party. You know, he can go on a ship. Like he can attack anybody. He can attack people in groups. He can attack them individually. But like Freddy, he has to do it in your dreams. He has to. Like we may get later in the series, and I think Freddy might come into the real world. I don't know. And it's just so unclear what the rules are, and I think they try at the end they try to bury Freddy's remains to stop the curse, so Freddy will go away. But his skeleton comes to life at the end, and it's like, what? And he starts fighting off the people who are trying to bury it, and it's like, what? I didn't know we could do that. Like it's just they sort of make up the rules as they go, and it just that's why I kind of don't like the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. That's why they've always kind of I haven't really gotten into them as much as the Friday the 13th movies. Um, they try to Nightmare on Elm Street movies try to do too many new things at times. It seems they try to do they seem to be too innovative at times. Whereas the Friday the 13th series, you know, kind of sticks to the same thing over and over. They do inject a few new things in it, but usually it just comes down to Jason hunting down teenagers and hacking them to bits. You know, I mean, what Freddy does, I mean, they get into some weird stuff, and doesn't in one of these entries in the Nightmare on Elm Street series, doesn't Freddy, like, impersonate the Wicked Witch of the West or something? Like, come on, dude, that's just silly. Like, it's not a horror movie, that's a comedy almost. So, yeah, I'll probably watch more of these, because I don't remember having watched a lot of them, so, and I'll probably get into why I don't like them. But the first three aren't that bad, actually. I don't know why I would give this 1 out of 10. I think I would give this, I'm leaning towards a 6.5. It wasn't bad. It was actually, let's see what I gave other things, just so I can give it a relatively good rating. Um, let's see. I'm thinking maybe a 6.6. This one wasn't bad. Yeah, I think let's go with the 6.6. um, yeah, I'll go with the 6.6. It's A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. I'll have to check out the rated X version. Anyway, okay. Thanks. Have a nice day. Bye.